Has anybody ever been in a situation where you've had responsibility to accomplish something without the authority to make decisions about it?
I think most people run into that at some juncture
Mhm.
when they are working. I was a regional for UniFirst, and I had all the responsibility in the world to drive the numbers, but I did not have any authority with the people below me to get the work done. I had to rely on somebody else.
How'd that work out for you?
Um, I didn't do well, and I think because I didn't realize the leverage I could have had with the people who did have the authority and how to work that. And I
Okay.
don't think I understood what was really happening at the time. Looking
Yeah.
back on it, that's where I was.
But you could see how that would make your job very difficult if you're responsible for getting this done, but you don't have the authority to make decisions on how it gets done.
Correct. It's very difficult and challenging.
We had a situation like that with the Colorado Rockies where we had a manager, and I think 98, Jim Tracy was the manager of the baseball team. And they had a good start to the year, and then they had a bunch of injuries, and the year went to hell in a handbasket. Prior to the time that the year fell apart, they promised Jim Tracy a lifetime job with the Rockies. You're here forever. You did such a great job last year. We want you here forever, however you want to be here. Name your salary. And then things went to, then he got victimized by the injury bug. The promising year went south rapidly, and the management took away his authority. He still had the responsibility for the success of his team, but he didn't have the authority. The only authority he had was game time decisions. He did not have any authority on who to bring up from the farm club. He did not have any authority on a lot of different issues that are important to a baseball franchise. At the end of the year, with this offer in hand to stay here for the rest of your life, job for life, he said, "Thank you very much. I think I'm going to pass." And he left. Broke the hearts of the Colorado Rockies baseball fans, because responsibility and authority it's like the left wing and the right wing of an airplane. Okay. And so without one or the other, it starts to look a little bit like this.
Where's his right wing? He's just left wing. No! Me? Damn.
That's a pretty good flying. Guy loses his wing and he lands it safely. It's important to know is it was a trick video. I don't know if you've seen that before. If you look at the plane now, it's got a white stripe, but you can see it. And it was a real plane that shifted into a model airplane that lost his wing. But the point I want to make is that trying to accomplish a mission and being responsible for accomplishing the job without the authority to accomplish a job, you might as well lose a wing. You can't do it. So if you're ever offered that position of authority, of responsibility, we want you to lead this team. There needs to be another question. What sort of authority do I have to get it done? I need to know what kind of decisions I get to make sure I have it. That's the second half of that pillar. When we look at responsibility being result-based, authority is pretty much process-based. This is the decisions that you get to make as the leader that deal with, well, the power to direct, to make decisions, and to enforce obedience to those decisions. It's important that you have this. If you don't take the responsibility because you can't accomplish it. And Liz pointed that out very, very succinctly. Let's take a look at authority just for a second. Again, process-based. It allows you the ability to enforce, to decide, and make adjustments to whatever those numbers are. I love technology. 999-4493. Does anybody have any idea what that means? Good, because I have no clue either. Just showed up. Okay, so let's look at authority and some of the concepts of authority and the things to keep in mind about that authority that you have as a leader to a group. Congratulations, you're the team captain. Congratulations, you're the coach. Congratulations, you're the dad. Congratulations, you're the boss. Congratulations, you're the teacher. I don't care what field it's in, these all apply. Two types of authority will befall you. The first of these is legal authority. What would that refer to? What sort of situation would that refer to? Van, you've been awfully quiet. When do you get legal authority?
Well, what I think about is legal authority would be from like a police officer or somebody that is enforcing the law.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a great way to look. A police officer, a guy walks up, he's got the police uniform on, he's stopped your car. You probably don't need to question his authority. It's pretty obvious that he's got the badge and everything else. That's exactly what we're talking about, Van. Thanks. Okay, how's that different? I'm gonna pick on John here just because I can, and I picked on him enough. What about earned authority? It's not necessarily legalistic. It hasn't been assigned. What's an example of earned authority?
Something developed over tenure and experience on a team or in an industry.
Yeah, great example. Really, really good point. You're there for practice early. You work your tail off. You're there late. You're doing things to set the example. You may not be the coach. You may not be the team captain, but those other players on the team are going to look at you as an informal leader of the group, leading your peers. And that's a great example, is that this has been earned. There's something to keep in mind about these sort of things. Legal comes right away. I was a captain in the Marine Corps. They pinned bars on my shoulders, and the Marines are disciplined towards authority. I got saluted in the whole 9 yards. That was great. It was like having that big old fresh piece of watermelon, you know? You got that great piece of watermelon, and it's good, and you salt it, and you take bites out of it, and you're just really enjoying all this great leadership that you have, this authority that you have. And then eventually things begin to change. What happened to our authority? What happened to that big fresh watermelon that we had? That was our legal authority when they gave us the title, and everything looked great at that point in time. What happened to the watermelon?
Molded and deteriorated.
Molded and deteriorated. Can that happen to authority?
It looks like my first sales team I ever led. I destroyed them because I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, that can happen too. Yeah, no question about it. We all have those. But the point on your authority is you may get all the authority you get at the beginning. I mean, all you can ask for. But how do you keep it from decaying to turn it into something like this? That's kind of the question there, isn't it? And that's what can happen with that legal authority. There are considerations to keep in mind with your authority. Okay, you get to enforce, you get to make decisions, you get to do all that kind of stuff. So 3 areas I want to just pose out there. If you're going to enforce obedience, there's a concept between fair and there's a concept between equal. What's more important, treating them fairly or treating them unequally?
I would say treating them fairly.
Okay. What's the difference between that and equally, though? I mean, equal, how do you define the two?
Well, because each person's an individual, so I think you have to take the individuality into, your decisions.
Okay. Let's say you have 2 people, 2 men and 2 individuals on your team. You're supposed to be at a meeting at 8:00 in the morning. It's your national sales meeting coming up, and you've got to be sitting in the room, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, at 8:00 in the morning. And you've got Susie, who shows up at 8:30. She's late. And you got Phil, and Phil shows up at 8:32. Both of them are hungover. what considerations would you need to know about whether or not you're going to treat them fairly or equally in this case? They both are equal from the standpoint of their violation. But what sort of thing would you need to know? You know, Kim, you mentioned the situation itself, the individuals. What's important to find out?
Well, to me, that sounds like the same situation with two different people. So,
Background and priors.
What about background? What if I told you that this is Susie's third day in a row she shows up late?
Priors.
And Phil, Phil's always, he's just a stellar guy. He's just messed up. Okay. That makes a different situation, doesn't it? You've got a habitual offender, and you've got a guy that's messed up for the first time. I mean, we all have that opportunity to mess up. But that would be a great example of, if you're going to treat everybody equally, you're going to give them both the same punishment. If you're going to treat them fairly, is it fair for Susie to get a different punishment than Phil? I think so. Yeah. You got to look at the situation. So don't get all wrapped up in, well, I got to treat everybody equally. You don't have to treat everybody equally. You got to treat people based on their behavior, based on priors, based on other situations. And it takes us into that second area in terms of consistent versus situation. This kind of falls into that same ballpark. And Kim, you've even taken us into the next point, is looking at that situation. What situation are we looking at? This person was late because she was 30 minutes hungover. Okay. Well, if you're there 30 minutes late, you're going to be subject to this type of punishment. Well, Phil was 30 minutes late, but it wasn't because he was hungover. It was because his roommate was sick, and he had to spend 30 minutes helping to make his roommate comfortable so that he could get down to the meeting, or, whatever it took. The same offense can be taking place, but just because they're 30 minutes late means you're going to have to take a look at it. And it goes back into finding out what's going on. That takes us to the next point in terms of that authority. We've all heard the term, ask permission, ask forgiveness. Sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission. I think we probably all can find a situation where we've been there. But what if you're the boss? If somebody does something that is outside the norms of what's supposed to be done, and they're operating based on the situation of, they want your forgiveness, they should have asked your permission. How do you determine whether that's a problem or not? But what would you want to know as a boss? This guy saying, hey, I figured it was better to ask forgiveness than it was to ask permission.
I think in the sales side, everybody's done that to get a deal and just said, okay, we'll do it. And then go back to your boss and say, I said we'd do this, and so now I got to ask your forgiveness, but I really think it's a good deal. And so then you plead your case, so to speak.
Okay, so you're pleading your case to your boss, but I'm going to make you the boss, Liz. And Zach is coming to you saying, hey, this is why I didn't check with you, but I had to respond quickly. This is going to get us a $350,000 order of FR garments for Loudoun County Sheriff. Okay. But I couldn't check with you, and I know it's outside procedure, but this is the result. How willing are you to kind of forgive that at that point?
If I thought it was a good decision, probably fairly willing, because
sure.
I trust the judgment of the people who work with me.
And the result turned out that it was pretty good, right? $350 million order. That all worked out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
What if it didn't work out so well? What if all of a sudden it puts you in a price situation because he offered a price that was below what you could offer? And now Loudoun County Sheriff told Washington County Sheriff about it. Now Washington County Sheriff wants the same price deal. And now you got 3 other sheriff departments wanting the same rebate.
Yeah, well, then you're in another totally different situation where you just have to say no.
That's right. And sometimes that permission forgiveness, you got to look at it and say, what's the worst case scenario that could happen here? Worst case scenario is I don't get the business. That may happen. But if the worst case scenario is I violate a discriminatory, regulation or something like that, and I've done something to bring shame upon the company and put us in legal jeopardy, that's a whole different deal. So as leaders, keep in mind you're gonna be dealing with this on a frequent basis, particularly if you have good, solid, aggressive people working with you. I just thought it would be better to ask forgiveness. It's all done. It was all good. We take that risk sometimes. All right. All right. With that, folks, we're at 50 minutes. I promise this to be 40. So I'd love to keep going. I'd love to, I don't want to keep anybody here that needs to move on because I know it's a work day, but that's what covers that initial stanchion, that piling of responsibility and authority. Keep in mind, accept and adjust when it's negative feedback and your team has messed something up. You wear it. That's what you get paid for. But when it's positive feedback, you don't get to wear it. Pass it on to the people that got it done. Because they're the ones that are really getting it done. That's why you're there and why you're leading a team. Authority, again, keep in mind, it's process-based. It's the jelly in the jelly donut. But make sure you have that authority to back up that responsibility you have. Pretty basic. I'll be happy to entertain any questions or comments at that point. Next week, we're going to be handling the difference between management, boo, and leadership. Yay! Everybody loves leadership. But we're going to talk about basically, again, two wings of the same airplane. So I'd love to have you join us. Thank you again for contributing to Feed America and for being part of the discussion. I hope you got something out of it. And with that, oh, here's the other point. I think I mentioned at the beginning. You'll be getting an email link that will open you into YouTube so you can see the review of this session as much as you want to, as well as session number 1. Okay. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Coach
you.
Brown.
Good job.
Take care.
Thanks.